Conversation going with our panel. Joining us now is the LIBRE Initiative Policy Director, Isabel Soto, and the LIBRE Initiative President, Daniel Garza. I appreciate you both being with us. Obviously, Title 42 expiring has put an enormous strain on the resources, but it's also just an unsafe situation for many of the migrants right now that continue to cross the border. I also want to introduce in our panel our special guest today, Katie Cherkosky, and we appreciate y'all being here. I want to kick it off with you, Daniel. Talk to me a little bit about what you've observed since this policy has expired.
Well, complete chaos. You're right, that our services are being overridden, as the reporter has been saying. Look, the Biden administration, who's been listening to the radicals in his party, created this mess. Biden has been sending mixed messages to migrants and now really has taken an extremely imprudent approach to immigration, pushing one bad executive policy decision after another. He's halted, obviously the border wall construction. Criminal deportations are way down. He called for a 100-day moratorium to all deportations. Again, sort of the mixed messages. And by the way, he has spiked fees for those entering legally to work on farms and ranches. This is the kind of entry that we actually do need, which is lawful and necessary to meet labor demand. But again, under this administration, everything is topsy-turvy.
Isabel, I spoke with Republican Senator Roger Marshall's office. They had been down to Brownsville, Texas, shortly before the expiration of Title 42. They told me some interesting things. They said a fifth-generation rancher is leaving his ranch and moving his family because it's become unsafe. They spoke to a Marine who told them that he served in Afghanistan and felt safer serving in Afghanistan than living in South Texas. What are you hearing from residents right now? Again, dealing with this expected surge that will continue over the coming weeks?
Yeah, I think I will just highlight this is a two-pronged issue. We're talking about not just a humanitarian crisis, which has been highlighted, but also a security crisis, which is what we're getting at here. Especially when we talk about Texas, this is a state that most of the property along the border is actually privately owned. So this isn't just lands that no one's using. There are homeowners, there are ranchers, there are businesses that need their property to be safe. And that's exactly what we're hearing is people are frightened. People are afraid. We have a situation where we don't know who's entering the country, what they're doing here, why exactly they're here, and who they are. So it is frightening, and we're hearing that on the ground, in addition to humanitarian organizations that have stepped up and are trying to help. They're completely overwhelmed, and it's unclear how long this is going to be able to continue.
Katie, how serious is this from a national security standpoint?
Well, I think it's incredibly serious. I think that this is not a border towns issue at this point. It's a national issue, not just because of the folks coming in, but because of all the drugs coming in, because of all of the potential criminals coming into this country. The law is at its limit. I mean, the surge is so large that any policies changes in the courts saying that people need court dates to be released, that's not going to do anything at this point. It's way beyond that point of any control whatsoever in the courts even. So it's quite dramatic in my mind.
That was interesting. That's something that we heard with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the criticism of other states weighing in on this issue. He said people say that Florida is not a border state, but it is a maritime border state. So we have to keep that in mind. Daniel, I want to go back to you for a moment and talk about the perception, again, from voters, whether it's Democrats and Republicans, and whether they agree with the Biden administration on the trajectory that they're taking here. We continue to hear from the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas saying that the borders are not open, but all of these policies would indicate otherwise.
Well, that's right. Look, I think one of the reasons why Biden is suffering in the polls is precisely because he's lost control of the border. Biden and Mayorkas think that they get to decide new avenues for legalization and work visas as opposed to Congress doing this. They've been creating unconstitutional parole programs for specific countries. They're allowing undocumented migrants at the border, many who, by the way, destroy their identities before crossing, to enter with work authorization, fly them to their cities of choice, and then place the burden on cities and counties and states. And they're doing complete runaround to the role and the responsibility of Congress. I will say, though, Congress needs to step up. There are solutions on the table right now that they can move on. And I know that Biden is threatening to veto H.R. 2, which would go a long way to border security, but at least negotiate, at least reach out and have conversations to reconcile your differences with the Republican Party, but we're just not seeing that.
Yeah, Daniel Garza, you bring up an incredible point. We're seeing that not only with border legislation, and then in the Senate, you had bipartisan legislation from Democrats and Republicans to even just put a 2-year extension on this until we can figure out how to handle the influx. That didn't happen either. Isabel Soto, Daniel Garza, appreciate you both being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.